Lee Dae-ho walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Assembly Hall. His black shoes clicked on the smooth white floor. The sound echoed in the huge room. He had done this walk many times before, but today felt different. Today would be the last time. The hall was enormous. It could hold 10,000 beings easily. Bright lights hung from the ceiling like small stars. 9 tall chairs sat at the front of the room. Each chair was different, made for a different alien species. Behind Lee, his team followed quietly. Park So-jin carried her datapad close to her chest. She had worked on the numbers all night. The results were not good. The Valkyrie delegate was already in its chair. Its body looked like a giant crystal that grew from the ground. Blue light moved through its clear skin like lightning. When it spoke, the sound was like breaking glass. "The human representative arrives," it said. "We hope you bring better answers." Today, Lee stopped at the small podium in front of the 9 chairs. He placed his hands on the smooth surface and looked up. The other delegates were taking their seats. The Nexari moved as one group. Their many bodies shared one mind. They looked like large insects with silver wings. The Thalaxians were warriors. They had thick red skin and 4 arms each. Their leader carried a sword even here. "We have spent 3 years talking," Lee said in Galactic Standard. His voice was calm and clear. "Today we will finish this." The Valkyrie laughed. The sound made the air shake. "Yes, human. Today you will accept our terms. You have no choice." Park So-jin moved closer to Lee. She whispered into his earpiece. "The data is clear, sir. Every species here went through the same thing. They all had to give up everything to join." Lee nodded slightly. He had suspected this for months. The Federation did not want new members. They wanted new slaves. The Valkyrie stood up. Its crystal body caught the light and threw rainbows across the room. "The terms are simple, human. Your species will give up all military ships. You will let us change your bodies to make you less violent. You will work for us on the worlds. We choose. In return, we will let you live." The other delegates made sounds of agreement. The Nexari buzzed with their wings. The Thalaxians hit their chairs with their extra hands. A small furry creature from the Zephyrin system squeaked happily. They all thought this was very funny. "You will also give us all your technology," added the Nexari speaker. Its voice sounded like many people talking at once. "Your ships, your weapons, your computers, everything." Lee felt Park So-jin touch his arm. She was looking at her datapad. More information was coming in from their ship in orbit. Admiral Kim Tae-won was ready. All human ships in Federation space were ready. The plan they had hoped never to use was about to begin. "And if we say no?" Lee asked. The Valkyrie moved closer. Its crystal face had no real expression, but Lee could feel its anger. "Then you will die. We will take your worlds. We will hunt down every human ship. You are weak and few. We are strong and many." The Thalaxian leader stood up. He was huge, even for his species. Scars covered his thick arms. "My people will enjoy the hunt," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "Humans fight well, but you cannot win against all of us." Lee looked at each delegate. These beings ruled most of the galaxy. They had technology that could destroy stars. They had armies that numbered in the billions. They were right about one thing. Humans could not fight them and win. Not in the way they expected. "You want our answer?" Lee asked. "Yes," said the Valkyrie. "Accept our terms or face destruction." Park So-jin was typing quickly on her datapad. She was sending messages to every human ship, every human world, every human station. The same message went to all of them. "Protocol Exodus. Begin now." Lee smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been pushed too far. "The Human Federation has an answer for you," he said. The room became very quiet. Even the Nexari stopped their buzzing. All 9 delegates leaned forward to hear. "We refuse," Lee said. "Clearly, we withdraw from all talks. We will make our own path among the stars." For a moment, no one moved. Then the Valkyrie began to laugh. The sound was like 1,000 windows breaking. The other delegates joined in. The Nexari buzzed louder than before. The Thalaxians roared with joy. The small furry creatures squeaked until they could not breathe. "You think you can survive without us?" the Velkari said when it stopped laughing. "You think you can hide in the dark between stars? You will come back. You will crawl back and beg us for scraps. And when you do, our terms will be much worse." Lee picked up his datapad from the podium. Park Sojin and the other humans in the room moved toward the exit. Their faces were calm, but their hearts were beating fast. "Maybe," Lee said as he walked away, "or maybe you will learn that humans do not crawl. We fly." Above them, in orbit around the neutral world, Admiral Kim Tae-won watched the Federation fleet through his ship's windows. Hundreds of alien vessels filled the space around the planet. They thought they were showing their strength. Kim touched a button on his chair's arm. All across the galaxy, human ships received the same signal. In mining systems far from any world, huge machines began to shut down. On research stations studying dangerous stars, scientists started packing. On frontier worlds where humans had built cities from nothing, the evacuation began. The Federation thought they were watching humans surrender. They did not know they were watching the greatest withdrawal in galactic history begin. They did not know that humanity had been preparing for this day since they first met alien life. They did not know that the real war was about to start. 6 months had passed since Lee Dae-ho walked out of the Galactic Assembly Hall. The aliens had expected humans to return within days, begging for mercy. Instead, they watched in growing alarm as humanity began the largest moving operation the galaxy had ever seen. Dr. Cho Menji stood on the observation deck of New Bizan Station. Below her, the planet Key 7 was being stripped bare. Massive ships hovered over the human cities like metal clouds. Construction robots moved in perfect lines, taking apart buildings piece by piece. Every bolt, every wire, every computer chip was being loaded onto transport ships. "How many more hours?" she asked her assistant. 18 hours, Doctor, the young man replied. "Then this planet will be empty of all human presence." Cho nodded. She had overseen the evacuation of 43 human worlds so far. Each time it was the same process. Take everything useful. Leave nothing behind that could help the aliens. Make it look like humans had never been there at all. The aliens did not understand what they were seeing. At first they had laughed. The Velkari sent messages calling it a childish tantrum. The Thalaxians said humans were running away like scared animals. The Federation Council met every day to discuss how long it would take for humans to come back with better attitudes. But as weeks turned to months, the laughter stopped. Captain Yoon Ji-ho guided her cargo ship through the asteroid field near the Centauri system. Her vessel, the New Soul, was packed full of passengers. Most were human, but not all. In the lower decks, alien families sat with their belongings in small bags. "Captain," her first officer said, "we have 3 more Melodian ships requesting permission to join the convoy." Yoon looked at her screens. The Melodian ships were beautiful, made of the same crystal material as their bodies. Inside each ship, she knew, were aliens who had chosen to leave their own people behind. "Let them join," she said. "We have room for everyone who wants to come." The Melodians were not the only ones. Keth warriors had abandoned their clan ships to follow human fleets. Zephyrin scientists had left their research stations to work with human teams. Even some young Nexari had broken away. From their hive minds to think for themselves, these aliens had found something in human space that their own species would not give them: freedom, the chance to be different, the right to choose their own path. In the cargo hold of the New Soul, a Melodian named Crystal Song sat with her daughter. They hummed together, making beautiful music that filled the metal room with color. The human children nearby watched in wonder as the air around the aliens shimmered with rainbow light. "Will we be safe with the humans?" the young Melodian asked. "Safer than we ever were at home," Crystal Song replied. Far behind them, Federation space was beginning to experience problems. General Lim Woo-jin had made sure of that. Every piece of human technology left behind had been locked with codes that only humans knew. Fusion reactors that had powered alien cities for decades suddenly stopped working. Medical machines that had saved millions of lives went silent. Computer networks that connected entire star systems crashed and could not be restarted. The aliens had not realized how much of their technology was actually human-made. For 200 years, human engineers and scientists had worked throughout Federation space. They had fixed broken machines, improved old designs, and built new systems. They had done it so well that the aliens had forgotten who had done the work. Now those systems were failing, one by one, on the planet Nexus Prime, the same world where the assembly hall stood. The great city of Harmony began having power problems. The fusion reactor that had run perfectly for 50 years was shutting down section by section. Alien engineers worked frantically to fix it, but they could not understand the human modifications that had made it so efficient. The Valkyrie delegate stood in its crystal palace and watched the city lights go out one by one. For the first time in its long life, it felt something new: fear. "Find the humans," it commanded its servants. "Offer them money. Offer them anything. We need them back." But finding the humans was proving impossible. They had vanished into the unknown regions beyond Federation space. The few alien ships that tried to follow them never returned. Those that did come back told strange stories of ghost fleets and impossible dangers. Commander Bae Dong-yuk walked across the surface of a world that had no name yet. The humans had found it 3 weeks ago, hidden in a nebula that blocked most sensors. The planet was perfect for human life, with clean air and fresh water. More importantly, it was far from any alien trade route. "The first city should go there," he said, pointing to a wide valley between two mountain ranges. "The shipyard will be here, near the ocean, and the defense platforms can cover everything from those high peaks." His engineers nodded and began taking measurements. They had done this on dozens of worlds now. Each new human planet was built faster than the last. They were learning, getting better at turning empty worlds into homes. The technology they were using would have amazed the aliens. Machines that could change the atmosphere of a planet in months instead of centuries. Robots that could build entire cities in weeks. Ships that could travel between stars using methods the Federation could not even detect. All of it had been hidden during the years of negotiation. The aliens had thought humans were a young, weak species with simple technology. They had been very wrong. Engineer Kwon Jae-sung stood before the most secret project of all. The Exodus Gate looked like a metal ring the size of a small moon. Energy flowed around it in patterns that hurt to look at directly. When it was finished, humans would be able to travel instantly between their worlds. No more slow ships, no more long journeys. The entire human empire would be connected by gates the aliens could never find or understand. "How long until the network is ready?" Bae asked. 6 more months for the basic system, Kwon replied. "A year for the full network. When it's done, we'll be able to move entire fleets across the galaxy in seconds." Meanwhile, the Federation was falling apart. Trade routes that had used human merchant ships were breaking down. Exploration missions that had relied on human scouts were canceled. Worlds that had depended on human doctors and teachers were struggling to find replacements. The younger alien species were the most affected. For generations, they had looked up to humans as examples of what they could become. Humans had shown them new ways of thinking, new technologies, new hopes for the future. Now that inspiration was gone, and many young aliens were asking difficult questions about their leaders on the Thalaxian homeworld. Young warriors demanded to know why their elders had driven away the only species that had ever treated them as equals instead of inferiors. In Nexari space, entire subhives were breaking away from the main consciousness, wanting to think for themselves like humans did. The Federation Council met in emergency session after emergency session, but they could not agree on what to do. Some wanted to send war fleets to hunt down the humans. Others wanted to offer better terms to bring them back. A few were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The Valkyrie delegate stood before a massive star map. Red lights showed where human systems had been. All of them were now empty, marked with symbols meaning abandoned. Blue lights showed where human ships had been spotted in the unknown regions, but those reports were weeks old and probably wrong. They cannot hide forever, the Valkyrie said to itself. They will need trade, they will need resources, they will have to come back. But in its crystal heart, it was beginning to doubt. Humans had surprised them once by refusing to surrender. What other surprises might they have waiting? In the dark between the stars, humanity was building something new. Not just an empire, but a different kind of civilization. One based on freedom instead of control, on cooperation instead of dominance. On hope instead of fear. The galaxy had rejected them, but they were no longer the same species that had asked for acceptance. They were becoming something more dangerous and more wonderful than the aliens could imagine. The transformation was just beginning. 2 years had passed since humanity disappeared into the darkness beyond known space. The galaxy had grown quiet, and that silence was becoming deadly. Dr. Shin Haijin walked through the research center on New Terra, humanity's first major world, in the unknown regions. Through the large windows, she could see the city growing every day. Tall buildings rose from the ground like metal trees. Ships moved through the sky in perfect lines. Everything was clean, efficient, and beautiful in a way that would have made the Federation aliens very nervous. She stopped at her computer and read the morning reports. More Federation systems were failing. The medical stations that had used human-designed nanobots were seeing their equipment break down. The power plants that relied on human modifications were running at half capacity. Communication networks that had worked perfectly for decades were becoming slow and unreliable. They still don't understand, she said to her assistant. They think we just built things for them. They don't realize we made their things better. Her assistant, a young human named Park, nodded. The Valkyrie are trying to reverse engineer the fusion reactors on Nexus Prime. They've been working on it for 6 months. Shin smiled. How are they doing? They managed to blow up 3 of them so far, the doctor laughed. It was not a kind laugh. For 200 years, humans had worked to improve alien technology. They had done it quietly, carefully, making small changes that added up to big improvements over time. The aliens had never bothered to learn how these improvements worked. They had just enjoyed the benefits. Now they were learning the cost of not paying attention, Commander. Bei Dong-yuk stood on the bridge of his ship, the Inchin, as it patrolled the edge of human space. His vessel was unlike any ship the Federation had ever seen. It was long and sleek, colored black like the space around it. When it moved, it seemed to bend the light, making it hard to see clearly. Contact on long-range sensors, his officer reported. Federation exploration ship, Thalaxian design. Bei looked at the screen. A red dot showed the alien ship moving slowly through the outer system. It was the 5th Federation vessel they had detected this month. All of them were looking for humanity. Orders, sir, the weapons officer asked. Follow the protocol, Bei said calmly. Let them see us, but don't let them get close. Make sure they know we're here, then disappear. The Inchin moved toward the alien ship like a shadow. Its engines made no sound and left no trail. Advanced stealth technology, developed in the hidden years while humans pretended to be primitive, made it almost impossible to track. The Thalaxian ship's sensors caught a glimpse of something moving toward them. They tried to get a better look, but the human ship vanished from their screens like it had never been there. On the bridge of the alien vessel, the captain felt his 4 hands shake slightly. Did you see that? Something was there, his sensor officer replied, but it's gone now. Our instruments can't track it. The Thalaxian captain made a note in his log. Another ghost ship spotted. Another failed attempt to make contact with humanity. He would return to Federation space with the same report as all the others. Humans were out there, but they could not be found or followed. What the aliens did not know was that humanity was building something incredible in the darkness. Not just cities or ships, but a completely new kind of civilization. Onsumi floated in her reconnaissance pod, watching a Federation convoy pass through the Kepler system. Her ship was so small and quiet that it looked like a piece of space. Debris? She had been watching alien movements for 3 months now. And what she saw was troubling. The Federation was falling apart, but not in a good way. The older, more powerful species like the Valkyrie were taking control of everything. The younger species that had once looked to humans for inspiration were being pushed around more than ever. She recorded everything and sent her reports back to human command through channels the aliens could never detect. Her information painted a picture of a galaxy sliding toward darkness. Without human influence to balance things, the Federation was becoming more like a prison and less like a partnership. The Melodian homeworld is under martial law, she reported. The Thalaxians have banned artistic expression. The young Nexari, who tried to think independently, have been forced back into the hive mind. It's getting worse out there. Her message traveled instantly through the quantum communication network that connected all human worlds. Within minutes, it reached the leaders on New Terra, and they did not like what they read, but humanity had bigger things to worry about than Federation politics. Engineer Quan Jae-sung stood before his greatest achievement, the first completed. Exodus Gate, the massive ring of metal and energy, floated in space like a doorway to nowhere. Ships could enter it and emerge instantly at another gate thousands of light years away. Beginning first test, he announced to the team watching from the control station. A small probe ship approached the gate. As it passed through the center, space seemed to twist and bend. Light stretched into impossible shapes. Then the ship was gone. Probe has emerged at the Eta Carina gate, came the report from the other side of human space. All systems normal. Travel time 0 seconds. The team cheered. They had done it. They had built a transportation system that made Federation hyperdrive technology look like walking. With the gate network, humans could move fleets across the entire galaxy faster than aliens could cross a single star system, but the greatest change in humanity was not technological. It was social. On the world of New Harmony, human children played with Melodian younglings in crystal gardens that sang in the wind. Keth warriors trained alongside human soldiers, learning new concepts of honor and duty. Zephyrin scientists worked with human researchers to unlock the secrets of the universe. These alien refugees had not just found safety with humanity. They had found acceptance. In Federation space, they had been forced to fit into roles chosen by their species leaders. With humans, they were free to become whatever they wanted to be. A young Melodian named Bright Voice had discovered she had a talent for engineering instead of music. In her home system, this would have been seen as shameful. Her people believed that all Melodians should be artists, but humans encouraged her to follow her passion. Now she was helping to design the next generation of human ships. The harmonics in the engine design are all wrong, she told the human engineers. If you adjust them like this, the ship will be faster and use less power. The humans listened and made the changes. The ship performed exactly as she had predicted. This was the human way. Listen to good ideas no matter who had them. Meanwhile, the Federation's attempts to find and contact humanity were becoming desperate. They sent their best ships into the unknown regions, but most never returned. The few that did come back told stories that sounded like madness. We found a system with a black sun, reported one Nexari scout. Our instruments said it was impossible. But we saw it with our own eyes. Ships were moving around it, but they weren't following the laws of physics. Another ship reported finding planets that seemed to exist in multiple locations at once. A Thalaxian explorer claimed to have seen human vessels phase in and out of normal spacetime like ghosts. The Federation Council dismissed most of these reports as mistakes or lies. But some of the older, wiser delegates were beginning to understand the truth. Humanity had been hiding their real capabilities for centuries. The technology they had shown during negotiations had been primitive compared to what they actually possessed. The Valkyrie delegate stood in its crystal chamber, reading report after report of failed missions and impossible sightings. For the first time in its 1,000-year life, it felt something that its species rarely experienced: uncertainty. What are they building out there? It wondered aloud. If it had known the answer, it would have been even more worried. Humanity was not just building an empire. They were becoming something new, something that combined the best of all the species that had joined them. They were creating a civilization based on freedom, cooperation, and unlimited potential, and they were almost ready to return to the galaxy. The Federation had rejected humanity when they were weak and asking for acceptance. Soon, they would have to face humanity when they were strong and no longer asking for anything. The silence that had worried the aliens was about to end. And when it did, the galaxy would never be the same again. The attack came without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning. The first Federation world to die was Kepler 442, a peaceful planet where 3 different alien species lived together, the sky filled with dark ships that moved like a swarm of metal insects. Within 6 hours, the planet was empty of all life. The Federation Council received the news with shock and disbelief. For 3,000 years, nothing had threatened their territory. Their combined fleets were the strongest force in the galaxy. How could an entire world be destroyed so quickly? "Show me the enemy ships," demanded the Valkyrie delegate. Its crystal body pulsed with angry light. The hologram that appeared made the entire council chamber fall silent. The ships were not built by any known species. They were black and smooth, with no visible weapons or engines. They moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a single organism. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to learn and adapt with each battle. "They call themselves the Devourers," reported Admiral Vex, the Federation's military leader. "They consume everything on the planets they attack. Metal, energy, biological matter, all of it gets absorbed into their ships. They're not just conquering worlds, they're eating them." The Thalaxian representative stood up, his forearms reaching for weapons that were not there. "Then we fight them, assemble the Grand Fleet. Show these machines the power of the Federation." But the Grand Fleet lasted exactly 3 days against the Devourers. The aliens threw everything they had at the invaders. Planet-killer weapons, reality-bending technology, armies numbering in the billions. None of it mattered. The Devourers absorbed the attacks and became stronger. Every destroyed Federation ship made the enemy swarm larger. Captain Moon Sioko watched the Battle of Rigel Prime from his hidden observation post. His ship, the Bizun's Pride, was invisible to both sides as the Federation's greatest fortress world fell to the mechanical swarm. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "Admiral Vex is broadcasting a surrender offer." Moon said nothing. His orders from Human Command were clear: observe and record, but do not interfere. Humanity had chosen neutrality in this war. The Federation had made their choice years ago when they rejected human membership. Now they would face the consequences alone, but watching civilizations die was harder than Moon had expected. Through his ship's sensors, he could see millions of alien civilians trying to escape the planet. Most would not make it. "Sir," Communications Officer Ha Yun-Yung said, "I'm picking up civilian evacuation frequencies. They're calling for help." On all channels, Moon looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. These were not the leaders who had humiliated humanity. These were innocent families, children, ordinary people who had never hurt anyone, have made a decision that would change everything. Her fingers moved over her control panel, sending encrypted warnings to the civilian ships. "Warning, civilian vessels. Devourer scout ships are approaching your position from bearing 27 Mark IV. Suggest immediate course change to avoid contact." Moon should have stopped her. But he didn't. The evacuation ships changed course and escaped the trap. Thousands of alien lives were saved by a single act of human compassion. Word spread quickly through the refugee fleets. Someone was helping them. Someone was watching over them. The Federation Council met in an emergency session that lasted for 3 days. The Devourers had consumed 7 worlds and showed no signs of slowing down. Worse, they were getting smarter with each victory. The machines that had attacked the first world were crude compared to the adaptive swarms that now swept through Federation space. "We need the humans," said the Zephyrin delegate, a small furry creature whose voice shook with fear. "They have technology we never imagined. Maybe they can stop this." The Valkyrie delegate's crystal body flashed with anger. "We do not crawl to those who rejected us." The Federation has survived for 3,000 years without human help. The Federation is dying, the Nexari speaker buzzed. Half our worlds are gone, our fleets are scattered. Pride will not save us now. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, fear won over pride. The Federation broadcast a message on all frequencies, begging for humanity's aid. They offered full membership, equal status, shared leadership of the galaxy, everything they had refused to give before. The answer came as silence. Not even static on the communication channels. The humans were out there, but they were not responding. Admiral Ruhan Sal read the Federation's message from his command center deep inside New Terra. Around him, screens showed the progress of the Devourer invasion. Red lights marked the fallen worlds. Blue lines showed the predicted path of the enemy advance. Sir, his aide said, the civilian ships are still broadcasting distress calls. Millions of refugees are fleeing toward the unknown regions. Ru studied the tactical display. The Devourers were not just randomly attacking. They were following specific paths, consuming resources in a pattern that suggested they were looking for something. And according to their intercepted communications, that something was connected to humanity. What do our xenolinguists say about these Devourer transmissions? He asked. They're not random machine chatter, sir. There's intelligence behind it. The Devourers are searching for what they call predecessor artifacts, and they believe humans may have them. This changed everything. Humanity's policy of neutrality was based on the assumption that they could remain hidden while the Federation and Devourers destroyed each other. But if the Devourers were specifically looking for humans, isolation was no longer an option. Ryu activated the emergency communication system that connected him to every human leader across their hidden empire. Within minutes, presidents, admirals, and scientists were listening to his briefing. The situation is worse than we thought, he began. The Devourers aren't just destroying the Federation. They're hunting us. President Na Min-ho, leader of the Human Colonial Congress, spoke from New Terra's Capitol building. What do they want with us? According to their communications, we possess something they need. Something connected to an ancient species called the predecessors. If they're willing to consume entire civilizations to find us, we can't hide forever. The debate that followed was intense. Some leaders wanted to remain hidden and hoped the Devourers would pass them by. Others argued for immediate intervention to stop the mechanical swarm before it grew too powerful. A few suggested revealing humanity's location to the Federation in exchange for an alliance, but it was Dr. Shin Hai-jin who provided the information that ended all debate. Her research team had been studying the Devourer technology captured from their attacks. What they found was terrifying. The machines are not just adaptive, she reported. They're exponentially adaptive. Each generation is not just smarter than the last, it's many times smarter. At their current rate of improvement, they will be able to overcome any defense within weeks. If we don't stop them now, we won't be able to stop them at all. The vote was close, but the decision was made. Humanity would break its silence and enter the war. Not to save the Federation, but to save the galaxy itself. Fleet Admiral Kim So-young received the orders at the main human naval base. Her ships had been preparing for this possibility since the day humanity withdrew from Federation space. Now it was time to reveal what they had built in the darkness. Assemble the expeditionary force, she commanded. All ships, all weapons, all technologies, we're going home. But the humanity that was preparing to return to known space was not the same species that had left. 2 years of freedom had transformed them. They had grown stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than any alien species could imagine. The ships that began moving toward Federation space were like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They moved without engines, struck without weapons, and existed in ways that challenged the basic laws of physics. The refugees who had joined humanity had shared their knowledge, creating hybrid technologies that combined the best of dozens of species. Most importantly, humanity was no longer afraid. They had faced rejection, exile, and the threat of extinction. They had survived it all and emerged stronger. Now they were returning not as suppliants asking for acceptance, but as liberators coming to save a galaxy that had never deserved them. The Federation would soon learn what they had lost when they rejected humanity's offer of friendship, and the Devourers would discover that some prey fight back in ways that change the hunters forever. The silent years were over. The galaxy was about to tremble for very different reasons. The first sign that everything had changed came at the Battle of Kepler's Gate. The Devourers were moving toward the last major Federation stronghold when space itself seemed to tear open. Human ships poured through the rips in reality like water. Through a broken dam, Fleet Admiral Kim So-young stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable Soul. Through the viewports, she could see the Devourer swarm spreading across the star system like a disease. Thousands of black mechanical ships moved in perfect formation, consuming everything in their path. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim," she broadcast to her fleet. "Today we show this galaxy what humanity has become. Attack pattern Phoenix. Let them see the fire." The human ships that struck the Devourers looked nothing like the vessels the Federation remembered. They were sleek and dark, seeming to bend light around themselves. When they moved, they left no trails. When they fired, reality itself seemed to crack. The Devourers had never encountered anything like them. Their adaptive intelligence, which had learned to counter every Federation weapon, could not understand what the human ships were doing. Some human vessels seemed to exist in multiple places at once. Others phased in and out of normal space like ghosts. The strangest ones appeared to be traveling backward in time, attacking before they had even arrived. Lieutenant Park Jun-SCO watched from the weapon control station as his ship's quantum disruptors tore apart a Devourer cruiser. The enemy vessel, which had shrugged off Federation planet killers, simply came apart at the atomic level and scattered into dust. "How is this possible?" he whispered. 2 years of freedom," replied his captain. 2 years of not having to pretend we're primitive." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Devourers, who had consumed 7 Federation worlds without losing a single ship, were being destroyed in their hundreds. But these were not the crude machines that had first attacked the Federation. These Devourers had evolved, adapted, become something more than simple destroyers, and they were learning from this battle too. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, "the Devourer formation is changing. They're adapting to our attack patterns." Kim nodded. She had expected this. The enemy's ability to learn and evolve was their greatest strength, but humanity had prepared for this too. "Activate the Phoenix Protocol," she commanded. Across the human fleet, ships that had been destroyed began to reappear. The quantum echoes of their existence were pulled back from the moment of destruction, rebuilt from the information patterns that existed outside normal spacetime. Devourer weapons that had claimed human vessels watched in mechanical confusion as their targets came back to life, but the real shock came when the human allies revealed themselves. Ships bearing the crystalline design of the Melodians emerged from hyperspace, their hulls singing with weaponized harmony. The sound waves they projected could shatter Devourer armor like glass. Keth warrior ships followed, crewed by aliens who had embraced human concepts of honor and duty. Their enhanced weapons, built with human technology and Keth traditions, struck with precision that amazed even the humans. Dozens of other refugee species fought alongside humanity, each bringing their own unique abilities to the battle. The Zephyrin ships could phase through solid matter. The reformed Nexari units fought with perfect coordination while maintaining individual thought. Species that had never been allowed to reach their potential under Federation rule were now showing what they could accomplish when truly free. The Federation fleet, what remained of it, watched in stunned silence from the edge of the system. They had come here expecting to die fighting alongside whatever human forces responded to their distress calls. Instead, they were witnessing the emergence of a completely new kind of civilization. "This is Admiral Vex to the human fleet," came the transmission from the Federation flagship. We thank you for coming to our aid." Kim's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "We did not come to save you, Admiral. We came to save the galaxy from a threat you cannot understand. That threat revealed itself when the Devourer Central Intelligence finally entered the battle. It was not a ship in any normal sense, but a massive construct the size of a small moon. Energy patterns flowed across its surface like living lightning. When it spoke, its voice was heard on every communication channel in the system. "Humans, we have found you at last." The voice was not mechanical. It was something more complex, more intelligent, more frightening. This was not just an advanced computer, but a genuine alien consciousness that had transcended its original programming. "You carry the patterns of the predecessors," it continued. "The species that came before, the builders of the first technologies. We have searched for them across 1,000,000 worlds. They vanished, but they left echoes in your genetic code." Supreme Admiral Lee Hyun-woo, humanity's greatest military commander, brought his personal ship forward to face the massive construct. The vessel was small compared to the Devourer intelligence, but it carried weapons and defenses that existed outside the normal laws of physics. "If you want the predecessor legacy," Lee broadcast back, "you'll have to go through humanity to get it." The battle that followed was not fought with ships and weapons. It was a clash of philosophies, of ways of thinking about existence itself. The Devourer intelligence represented perfect order through consumption and control. Every planet it devoured, every species it absorbed, became part of its single unified consciousness. Humanity represented something different. Chaos, creativity, the right to be individual while choosing to cooperate. The human fleet did not fight as one mind controlling many bodies, but as millions of minds choosing to work together. The construct's weapons were reality itself. It could unmake matter, reverse time, collapse space into impossible shapes. But humanity's defenses were based on something the Devourers could not understand: the power of chosen cooperation between different species. When the construct tried to consume human ships, it found that their crews included beings from dozens of species, all thinking in different ways, all contributing their unique perspectives to the same goals. The unified absorption techniques that had worked on every other species failed against this diversity of thought. The final moment of the battle came when Lee's ship made contact with the construct's central core. Instead of weapons, he used humanity's greatest tool, communication. "You want to understand the predecessors?" He transmitted directly into the construct's consciousness. "Then understand this. They didn't vanish. They chose to become something more. They became the potential for every species to grow beyond what they were born to be. Humanity didn't inherit their technology. We inherited their dream." For the first time in its existence, the Devourer Central Intelligence experienced doubt. Its perfect logic encountered something it could not process: the idea that unity could come from diversity, that strength could come from difference. That moment of uncertainty was all humanity needed. The construct's defenses wavered, and human quantum weapons struck at its core. The massive form began to break apart, its unified consciousness scattering into component parts, but the victory came at a cost. The construct's death released energy, patterns that would reshape the galaxy's political structure forever. The old Federation was gone, destroyed by the war. In its place, something new would have to be built. Ambassador Oh Min-jun stood before the reformed Galactic Assembly, held now on the human world of New Terra. The chamber was different from the old Federation Hall. Instead of 9 dominant species sitting in judgment, hundreds of species sat as equals, including many that had never been allowed to speak before. "Humanity does not seek to rule this galaxy," he announced to the assembled delegates. "We seek to free it. Any species that wishes to join us in exploration, innovation, and mutual respect will find no greater ally. Any that seek to return to the old ways of oppression and control will find no greater obstacle." The Valkyrie delegate, its crystal form dimmed by defeat and loss, spoke from its seat among many others. "What of justice? What of punishment for those who rejected you?" O's answer was simple. "Justice is the opportunity to build something better. Punishment is having to live with the knowledge of what you almost destroyed." The new Galactic Confederation that emerged from the ruins of the old Federation was built on human principles, but it belonged to everyone. Species that had been suppressed for millennia were given the chance to contribute their unique gifts. Technologies that had been restricted were shared freely. Exploration of new frontiers began again after centuries of stagnation, but the greatest change was in how the galaxy thought about itself. The old Federation had been built on the idea that some species were naturally superior to others. The new Confederation recognized that every species had something valuable to offer, and that diversity was strength rather than weakness. Years later, children of a dozen different species would play together in the crystal gardens of New Harmony, learning from each other's unique perspectives. Keth warriors would train alongside human soldiers and Melodian artists, each group teaching the others their particular strengths. Scientists from across the galaxy would work together on projects that no single species could have imagined alone. The galaxy had trembled when humanity turned its back on negotiations.